Hello, everyone. It's Chris McDonald. We'll be doing an example of a triathlon first. I found with most people, they understand the concept of segments with a triathlon a little bit better than when you start adding in random splits on a 5K or a marathon or something like that. So hopefully that will be a good intro in, and then we'll go into a simple 5K and then multi-event setup. So some quick definitions before we get into it, because a lot of people do get confused with the difference between a stream and a segment. So streams are RaceDay Scoring's way of connecting to external sources of timing data. This could be middleware or TCP/IP stream or a folder for a CSV file that you have. Streams can be reused between races. So like if you're using MyLaps, you can have a standard MyLap start stream. If you're using another like race result, you might have a specific decoder stream. Same with CT. So there's the streams are dependent on the hardware you use and the manner in which you're bringing the data into RaceDay Scoring. Segments are different. Segments are how RaceDay Scoring handles additional timing sections of the race course, and they're collected up to make a full distance. So these are midpoint splits, multiple laps, tries, hill climbs. They're in the middle of a greater race. And so when you set up an event in RaceDay Scoring, it automatically creates a default entire race segment. And I'll show you that. And that's for each scored event that you've created. But if you do want additional segments, which that's what we're here to talk about, you'll need to set those up separately. So time for live demo, but first I do want to go over some course layouts, just so everybody has a visual. I can go back to these before we jump into each example, but I really do want you to have a good understanding of the course layout itself as a timer, so that you know where the mats are. So the first thing that we're going to do, and again, please excuse how bad some of these images are. I quite literally just stole some off the internet and threw mats down on top. So the first one is going to be a pool swim triathlon. So the concept here is you've got a mat at swim start. So let's just go ahead and assume that this is the swim start and the pool somewhere in here. They go swim and they come into TA. So from this mat to this mat is their swim time. And then you have from this mat to this mat, because this is bike in and out, is their T1 time. So then they go out, bike, come back in, they hit this mat again, and that's their bike time. They run through transition from this mat to this mat, and that is their T2 time. Then they run out, go do the run, and come back. And from this mat to this mat is their run time. So we've got 5 splits. There's swim, T1, bike, T2, and then out for the run. And their overall time is based off of this mat to this mat. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and do the demo of the triathlon, and then we'll come back and look at my incredibly fancy run diagrams. So let's see if I can pull this onto this screen now. Come on, you just did it. There we are. Hopefully everyone can see RaceDay Scoring. So we've got a triathlon here, and I'm not going to go through the entire setup, but however, I have set up for this event participant sync. Streams are not set up for this event. I'm not going to set up streams for this event. We are going to talk about timing locations though. So in timing locations, we have swim start, swim finish, run start, bike start, bike finish, and run finish. So again, these 1, 2, 3, 4 places, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I hope that that makes sense in regards to, we made timing locations in each spot that we're putting down mats. Now, I might have redundant mats at swim start or redundant mats at swim finish. That doesn't matter. We would just add additional streams into those locations. So it's not, it's how many physical like areas that you're going to have mats. So now that we've got this set up, we're going to go in and we're going to look at scored events. So with scored events, we have scored events set up already. Now, if you've not set up scored events, you're going to be dropped onto a page here, and in our next example, we will go through this process, but you can go through a quick setup for those scored events. In this regard, I went in, and we'll just talk about the individual race right now. I said I wanted to be a chip time start. Why? Because there's a mat just before they get into the swim that starts their time. I want to exclude clock time when generating default reports. I don't have a gun time in other than 12 a.m. So I could click this, but it's not going to do much good because if anybody starts the day before the race, we've got a major problem. So then on the timing locations for start and finish, we have swim start and run finish. I hope this general setup makes sense because what happens is when we go into segments, and we select an event for Dare to Try Individual, that's what fills in here at the top. So this is where the basic info that we talked about is created for the entire race. So every event that you create is going to have, in RaceDay scoring, is going to have an entire race section here of segments. So what I had to do for this race is I had to do some simple math. It's a 300-meter swim, a 20K bike, and a 5K run. So that would mean 20 plus 5 plus 0.3 is 25.3. And I went ahead and did this in kilometers. Now, this is a triathlon, so let's keep that in mind. So what do I want my pace to be for the entirety of a triathlon? I don't want to display the pace. Now, if you're doing a marathon, you would show, whatever, minutes per mile, or if you're in Canada or overseas, you might be doing minutes per kilometer. Tries are a bit different in that you don't normally want pace for the entirety of the race. So the first, and then we also have the starting point, which is swim start. Obviously, that's going to be your first read. And the end point we put into that last scored events section, that run finish is going to be that end point. You can change this. Now, this is one of the biggest places where I see people have issues. And that is, and we're going to be going through an example similar to this right after, but it's where people have a like a 5K, 10K, where the 10K does a second lap and it runs back through the finish line and goes back out. So the people hit that start finish time instead of twice, they hit it 3 times. So they don't change this as needed. In this scenario, no one will hit the finish line before the finish. So it's very easy. We can just put the first occurrence. So rarely do people get confused on the first segment. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit this add segment button, and it's going to bring up a section that you have to complete. So we want to call this swim. So I type in swim. It's a 300-meter swim. So please do not put 300 and then click kilometers. So 0.3 kilometers. And how far total have the athletes gone at this point? 0.3 kilometers. This first section, the first segment is always equivalent. The pace type to drop down, well, we could do minutes per yard. That wouldn't make much sense since we're doing everything in kilometers. So I did minutes per 100 meters. This is a swim, so that's how it's set up. So the starting point should be, since it's the very beginning of the race, should be the same as right here in your event starting point. Now, this is where things begin to stack onto each other. So our end point for the swim is swim finish. Now, I name my timing locations very clearly because I'm not smart enough to remember if I name it something crazy. I have to name things very, very simply, like swim, finish, run, start. So swim finish, this is the first time they're going to hit this mat. So it's occurrence number 1. And so now our first segment is complete. So then we go in and we hit that add segment again, type in T1 because this is transition 1 where they're running through transition. You do not have to have a distance in. So I put 0 in. So 0 plus 0.3 is still 0.3 kilometers. I don't want a pace for my segment here. So I click do not display, and this is from swim finish number 1 to bike start, bike finish, because they're going out on the bike number 1. That's pretty simple as well. So now we go and they do the bike. Bike, segment distance, 20K. 20 plus this number right here is 20.3 kilometers. Again, in the US, normally you're not trying to show kilometers per hour or minutes per mile. Most people want to see their average speed. So I usually, for triathlons on the bike section, choose mile per hour. More than welcome to choose whatever you like, but mile per hour is usually what people are looking for. So this is the first time we migrate off of occurrence 1, and that is from bike start, bike finish, the first time they hit it, to bike start, bike finish, the second time they hit it. So this is where they're going to have their second occurrence that makes this work. So they're back in T2, and this is again 0 kilometers, and so 0 plus 20.3 is 20.3. We're not displaying it. It's the second bike start, bike finish. It's the second time they hit swim, finish, run, start. And for the final one is the run. It's a 5K run, so we put 5 kilometers. 5 plus 20.3 is 25.3 kilometers. Mile, in terms of pace, we want minutes per mile. And this is the second time I've hit bike start, bike finish to, this is actually, boom. I was messing around with this a second ago. I apologize. So the second time they hit swim, finish, run, start, and the first time they hit run, finish. And this gives them their run split. So we would hit save. Race segments have been saved. So this is the same course across all events. So it's not like we have a duathlon or a qualathon or aquathon or however you're supposed to say it, or by itself 5K or anything like that. So I can copy this individual to the relays because the course is the exact same. And so that's been pasted and we're good to go. So now for the individual and the relays, we are locked and loaded in terms of segments. Now, again, it makes sense in terms of how that stacks for most people. We also want to show in the reports. Oh, let me hit save real quick. So if we go into the overall individual report and I want to make an auto save and I hit the plus button, I can set up all of this that I need to. And then I can choose right here. We've got these added deals right underneath all this information, and we can make sure we send those splits to RunSignup when we hit add stream. This is a real event, so I'm not actually going to hit add stream. We have a test event for the 5K, 10K. So we'll play with that a little bit more. So are there any questions about what we just did? Anything outstanding that let's see, I think we have one. Matt, is there anything that we need to float out to everybody right now, or?
If you wanted to do, we can talk about the order of segments a little bit. It's all based on the cumulative distance. So there's no inherent like order because you can have overlapping segments in RaceDay scoring. So it's based essentially, taking that cumulative distance, it will tell you where it is along the course, but there's not a way to reorder them. It's all just based on that. I don't know if that answers the question, but
yeah. So in theory, you can manipulate this with the segment distance and cumulative distance, but in reality, your brain's going to work a lot better if you just try to keep them in order as they go, like as you're creating them. Any other questions before we move on to the other? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and hop over and I'm going to import a race. Let's see, test event. All right, so we have nothing in this right now. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and start from the top down. We're going to do this is a 5K, 10K. So we're going to save the sync settings. We can force a sync. There you go. We got a fast person. RDS is fine and slow crisp. One day I'll be fast again. So I'm not going to go into streams for this specific thing, but I promised you that we would go back into our map so we could see what it looks like. So, and again, this is like, you guys can copy this if you need to for your 10,000 person 5K course maps. Just make sure that you give me the copyright for this amazing drawing. But what we're looking at here is a shared start finish where athletes go out, hit a split, and come back. So that's what we're going to set up initially. So let's go and do that. So I'm going to go again, nothing has been created. So if we go back, you see we have a shared start finish and a split. So I a lot of times go in and just change this finish or split times. We'll put whatever time in there. This is all fake data, so we'll just put, let's see, zeros in. Now, again, they're going to hit this twice because they're starting here and they're finishing here. So we're going to change this total number of occurrences to 2. It's a 5K, so let's put 5K start finish in here. And let's say the fastest time, we're going to set up the gap factor. The fastest time in between start and finish for someone is 13 minutes. We're not going to put any other filters in there and we'll hit save. So, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to put 5K split, or I could just put split point. It doesn't really matter. Let's just leave it at split. And we leave this at finish and or split times. If that was, I think we set it at 12. So maybe we can set a, we're not going to begin collecting until like 12:05. And they're only going to hit this once because it's a 5K. They're running out, they're hitting it, they're coming back. So it's going to say no streams are assigned. That's fine. Neither of them have streams assigned right now. So we're going to have scored events. So we're moving down. We're going to act like the 10K is not in this for right now. We'll come back and talk about multi-event. But initially, let's just go click quick setup. So for both of these, we're going to click chip time, exclude clock time. If you want to click use pre-gun times, you can. And so the start time is going to be, oh, we haven't set anything up for this one. So you know what? Let's just delete that out for right now. So we'll only do this. Did I not save this correctly? I apologize. Start and finish times. Sorry, guys. So we're going to start collecting finish times at 12. We're going to end collecting start times at 1. I apologize. That was probably a little confusing for everyone. So this is now set to start and finish. So what we did was we changed it from finish and split to start and finish times. So I apologize for that. So we can now go to quick setup. And you see the starting location now is 5K. We're not going to do anything with this one. We're just going to do the 5K event. Start is 5K start finish. Finish is 5K start finish. We're going to use chip time. And most of the time, we suggest for people to set their actual start time, if they're going to be using gap factors, to midnight so that they can see any out of the ordinary times come through. So I'm going to hit save on this. Now we're ready to set up the 5K in terms of segments. So see how we don't have a 10K on here? We don't have a scored event for a 10K. So we cannot choose the 10K right now. So for the 5K, the segment distance pulls from RunSignup. So I have in there 3.1 miles. If you wanted to have 5 kilometers, you could leave it at 5 kilometers and still do minutes per mile in terms of pace. It also shows you that this is a start and a finish. So it goes ahead and says that the second occurrence they hit this is what you're going to be using for scoring. So let's go and add a segment. Our segment will be whatever, first half or first 1.55 miles or something like that. So we'll put in 1.55 miles. Cumulative distance is 1.55 miles. Pace type, minutes per mile. Makes all the sense in the world. So we're gonna have started at the start finish, occurrence 1. Our end point for this is the split point, occurrence 1, because that's the halfway point. And so now if we go, want to set up the second one, you can name these first split, second split, whatever you want to. We're going to do 1.55 miles and 3.1 miles. Again, our pace would be in minutes per mile. This time, the starting point will be stacked on top. So our starting point will be the split point, first occurrence, and our ending point will be the 5K start finish, second occurrence, and we hit save. And that's how we set up this specific 5K by itself. Are there any questions on that? Let's see. I don't see any. Matt, is there anything we need to float before we go add a 10K into the mix?
There was one question asking about what happens if someone, this is in triathlon one, sorry I didn't bring it up earlier, but if someone were to, the bike split, they go out on their bike and forgot their water bottle, come back into the transition area, are they going to get a finish time for their bike? And so I think we should just go over the gap factors on the locations in that one when you get a chance.
Yep. So give me 1 second. What I'll do is I'll save this. So what you can do, we're back into the triathlon. What you can do for your timing locations for bike start, bike finish, you can actually go into your settings and say that they're going to hit this twice and set your gap factor to 20 minutes. And so what that means is no one is going to, that second read is not going to have happened until 20 minutes has passed. So if they come back in, their time actually starts back over as their first occurrence. So it's just not going to be calculated. It's going to assume that their transition time is just going to be very, very long. So if they come back in, let's say they go out of TA at 8:05. Oh crap, I forgot my water bottle. They come back in at 8:07 and they go back out at 8:08. Their transition time is going to end at 8:08 and their bike time is going to begin at 8:08. And so because of this gap factor, they can't be considered finished on that bike until 8:28 now. So that's how that gap factor works. Hopefully that covers it.
Follow-up question on that one was,
Yep.
Can they only have one gap factor? I have 2 distances in my triathlon, and they all cross over the same locations. I'd like to be more specific. So what do we
So
usually?
great lead in, because we're going to be talking about a multi-event course next. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up, and this is, again, you guys, this is copyrighted, so please don't steal my images that I drew over the course of months and months of Bob Ross art lessons. So here's what we have. We have a shared start finish for a 5K, 10K. Just like that last one, they're going to go out. They're going to hit the split. They're going to come back. The 5K finishes. The 10K runs through the finish line, goes back out, hits the split again, and finishes. So this might not be the exact scenario that you have for your triathlon, but it is very, very similar in regards to how it's set up. So let me go back to our super awesome test event. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clear out everything, and I'm going to go to quick setup. Actually, you know what? I'm going to add some timing locations. So first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a 10K start finish as well. That way I can add separate gap factors. So this is exactly what you're talking about. Say if you have a sprint and an Olympic distance and you want to set a gap factor on the bike for, say, 25 minutes on a 20K course, which would be blazing fast, but you know, you might have a pro show up. But you want maybe a 50-minute gap factor on the Olympic distance bike that's using a shared bike in, bike out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a location. And for this location, I'm going to call it the 10K start finish. And maybe this time I'll remember to click start and finish. So I think we had that time at, I don't know, we wanted to collect start times until 1 o'clock. And we wanted to begin collecting finish times at whatever, it doesn't really matter. We do want them overlapping. And the number of occurrences is 2, or actually in this scenario, because, and this is where people get a little fouled up. So if we go back and look at this picture, the 10Kers are going to start here. So that's 1 occurrence. They're going to hit it at the split. That's 2 occurrences. And they're going to finish. That's 3 occurrences. So they're going to hit it 3 times. And we'll say that the gap factors, we'll leave it about the same. So 14 minutes. So if we have somebody in our 10K run sub 28, I'll be pretty excited, honestly. So this is our 5K start, or our 10K start finish. One other thing that we need to do, we can use this same split point. However, what we can do here is, because now, again, the 5K, when we set this up for the 5K, it was only them and they were only hitting it once. Well, the 10K now is coming back out and hitting it again. You can set up an additional stream for this. You don't necessarily need to. You would just come and put the max number of total occurrences at that timing location. And the gap factor for that could be whatever. We can set that to 14 minutes as well. So now the split can have more than 1 occurrence. So scored events, we're going to come in for the 5K. We didn't save this last time. So let's do, I clicked off of that, like we're starting all over again. So this is the 10K. We're going to go 10K start finish to 10K start finish. And we're going to go chip time. And then our next one is going to be chip time, 5K start, 5K finish. So we'll put this, like we said, at 12 a.m. for both events, just so if it reverts back to gun time for some reason, we will see what time of day they started, which can be helpful. So those have been set. So now let's go into segments. So Let's go ahead, let's do the 5K real quick because we've already done this. So segment 1, segment 2, add a segment. We'll go first half, 1.55 miles, 1.55 miles. And again, we already did this, so that's why I'm hurrying through this one. And so we'll go down and we'll do second half. And this shows up at the header at the run sign up level. So you can change that to whatever you'd like. So this is going to be split 1, 2, 5K finish 2. All right, so all of this we just did. So that should all look the same. We only use, even though we said that the split point could have 2 occurrences, we only have to use 1 here. We do not have, for this event, we do not have to use it twice. Ooh, see, we all miss things. Good job, Matt, for developing little reminders there. All right, so now we're gonna go into the 10K. So 10K, you can see this defaults to the second occurrence. However, going back to it, 1, 2, 3. So it's not the second occurrence that we want as the finish, it's the third. Again, something very, very important to keep in mind. So if we do our segments, this one makes sense. It's the exact same as the 5K, right? Nothing special, except for we're going to use the 10K start finish because it's there. And so we're going to say split and we're going to use the first occurrence. So we're going to add a section and we'll call it 3.10 mile, 1.55 miles, 3.10 miles. So here, again, just like the 5K, split and 10K start finish. This is the second time. So all of this up into this point is exactly like the 5K. So now we're going to add a segment that is 4.65 miles. The distance is 1.55 miles. All right, so they're going back out. They're going back out to the split again. So the starting point for here is the 10K start finish, second occurrence, and it ends at the split at the second occurrence. And I think now you guys probably know that we have the 6.2 mile, it's 1.55, 6.20, starts here and it ends there. Because it's the third time that they've hit that 10K start finish. Because at the halfway point for the 10K, they ran through the finish line. While I think as a timer, my eye would twitch if I had people doing this. I know plenty of races that have this set up. So hopefully all of my math is correct and I don't get any errors. It looks like it is. So hooray, everything's been saved. So now when I go into my reports, I have my autosave for my 10K. I've got all of these splits to send up if I want to. For my 5K, I have my first half and my second half. So that is how you would set up a multi-event, multi-segment with shared start finish using gap factors, things like that. So that was a lot in a short amount of time. So are there any additional questions? is it possible? Let's see, I think there was a question earlier on the try. So this, let's say, the question is, how do you manage a different gap factor for different distances? So if we wanted to, let's go back into the triathlon, and I'm just gonna rename a scored event. Hopefully it doesn't get mad at me. Dare to try Olympic. And we're just gonna save this. So what you would want to do then is for a timing location, what I would end up doing here, because the only place that we have the first and second segment side by side is the bike start finish, I would call this sprint, and I would leave it at 20 minutes as the gap factor. And I would add a location and call that bike start finish Olympic. Finish your split times, number of occurrences 2, 45 minutes. And I'm just making up times to put in here. So now I have a bike start, bike finish sprint, a bike start, bike finish Olympic. So when I go to segments, if I go to the individual, which is the sprint, I can see that my bike is bike start, bike finish, sprint, and sprint. I would go into my Olympic, and we would change the segment distance at the RunSignup level, but instead of the, let's see, bike start, bike finish, I would use this. And this might be 40 kilometers. Now it's going to get mad at me because my distances aren't entirely correct. So let's see if I can change this right here. So in theory, this is how you would do it. You would use, and your streams would be the exact same. So your decoders or your locations out on site would be the exact same. You would just be using them in tandem with different, in quotation marks, timing locations so that you can set up variable gap factors by race distance. So hopefully that answers the question. Are there anything else? So the reason why we wanted to go over this is we get a lot of questions about segments. And so hopefully breaking it down, I don't know why, but triathlon seems to help people understand segments better than running events. But can you show what try results look like at RunSignup? Sure, give me a second. I've got to get to them, but give me 1 second and I will get those up. I don't think I accidentally pushed anything up just then. Let's see. So let's see if I can pull this up. So this event did have a virtual component. So there's a virtual result set that people went in and participated. There was a collegiate division, and I don't have this maximized so I can get to everything. So this is that exact event that we were looking at. So we have our swim time, our pace, our place, our transition with no pace beside it, a bike time, a bike pace in miles per hour, place, transition time with no pace beside it, 5K run pace, place, and then their chip time. and their division place and their division overall. And let's say I don't like chip time, I can go in here and click, oops, sorry, I'm not actually logged into my own account. That's always good. So sorry. On your own, you can have, there's an edit button right there. And so you can hit the edit button and go in and change this to overall time or whatever you want. And so, yeah, all of that's in there. And for relays, instead of using name, we use team name. That way it's got the team name and the participants underneath. So that's what triathlon results look like at the RunSignup level. What happens when a passing is missed? You get a blank for the split, both before and after, since it can't parse that out, and then the time gets added into the next one. So you basically add that time into the next segment. I know Matt's been answering by text, answering a lot of questions, so I'm just trying to scroll through to see anything else that might have been anything else that was missed. And as always, if you do have like very specific questions, feel free to reach out to me, chris@runsignup.com. And if you need support questions, those will be going to RaceDay@runsignup.com. Or you can always click this question mark. And I really do believe that you guys don't trust that this is going to get to us, because I have a lot of people that reach out via email and don't realize they could have just hit this, and Matt Avery is about to get an email. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click it. I'm going to put my name in. And I'm going to hit send, and it sends in an error log, ticket successfully submitted. So Matt's now going to go into Freshdesk and delete a silly ticket that he just got on the RaceDay team. So that is available 7 days a week, and people do monitor it on race mornings. So, however, that is not an invitation to not test things out in advance and you know, try to figure out why things are not working on race morning. So ideally, we're helping out. You can click this on Monday and ask for support on setting something up or questions you might have. So yeah, let's see. I know I will not burn down the house because of the confusion, I promise. Yeah. So yeah, and then so upcoming Timer Tip Tuesdays, the next 3 weeks are actually very focused. It's advanced timer training on RaceJoy. So that's going to be at our normal noon o'clock time, and that will be on, let's see, the 27th, 4th, and 11th. So it will be a series of RaceJoy webinars. If you do have specific things that you think would be helpful as a webinar, feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to add those in. We've done very specific things for other folks in the past that, and we record everything so that you guys can review it after the fact. So I know this was a bit longer one. Normally we try to keep it 20 to 30 minutes, but there's a lot of content and a lot of different variables for segments. So I hope you guys found that helpful. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to ask while you got us on. Otherwise, feel free to shoot me an email asking questions, and we'll do our best to get a response back to you ASAP. I don't think I see anything crazy coming in right now. So thanks guys for joining us this week. I appreciate it. And also, if you were unaware, there is a spring symposium on Thursday. It's the Spring Forward seminar. You can find that on RunSignup. and it's from noon until 5. It focuses, and that's Eastern. It does focus on springing back into events, planning for hybrid events and how to, marketing. Then we go into if you've been to a lot of our webinars in the past, it might be a lot of review, but we do go through all of our RaceDay tools and tech, and then we have a spring event expert panel of race directors from California to Florida and the Southeast, kind of giving their experience on what they've been dealing with during the pandemic and how things are coming out. So obviously with California, they're not out at all. Florida, they're full bore wide open. So it's a very, very different way of managing events depending on where you live in the United States. So feel free to join that. Those will also be recorded and you can view those after the fact. So thanks so much for joining. And
just one more thing, Chris, before we head out.
Yep.
Steve was asking about, you know, I'm a pretty experienced RaceJoy timer. I set up a bunch of events. Should I still attend these upcoming webinars on advanced RaceJoy training? So I just wanted to give an overview of what is going on in those ones.
Sure.
The first one on the 27th of April is RaceJoy for relays and ultras, so specifically for those types of events. The following one on the 4th is RaceJoy for triathlons. And the next one on May 11th will be RaceJoy Google Earth course editing. So there's some really specific things we will be going over. If any of those apply to you, definitely recommend it. Otherwise, you probably won't get much. But I think the Google Earth course training would be really valuable for any RaceJoy timer.
Excellent. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, look forward to seeing you guys in a couple of days at the Spring Forward seminar or next week at our RaceJoy Advanced Timer Tip Tuesday. Take care and have a great week.